Chris Harrison's advice helped Matt James get through his Bachelor season, and we're breaking down all his words of wisdom. Hey guys, welcome back to another Shared News from Home. We're talking about how Chris Harrison's tough love helped Matt as the Bachelor. But before we get into it, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. As always, I'm your host, Gabby Gonta, and I'm joined by the amazing Avery Grooms today. Hi, Avery.
Hello.
So being the Bachelor is a tough role to fill, especially as the first Black Bachelor and having never been on the show before, aka Matt James. So he clearly had his work cut out for him. Even in just his first episode, Matt was visibly nervous and pulled Chris aside to have some one-on-one advice, talking time before even meeting his women. On the Bachelor Party podcast this week, Matt revealed how Chris's tough love helped him on his journey to find love. He said, quote, "Every time I talked to Chris, I took something away from him." So, Avery, I want to know your thoughts. I am personally not surprised that Chris was such a rock for Matt during this season, but what are your thoughts on him just being this dad figure or such an amazing mentor for the lead, I'm sure, and even the contestants when they need it? What do you think?
Well, this is exactly why Chris can never not be the host of this show. His wisdom and his experience of all these years of hosting this are so valued by each contestant. And you have to think about it. Each contestant goes to him for so many things. He's a host, but he also seconds as like a therapist and a mentor to all these people. So it doesn't come to a shock to me that he has so much wisdom and great advice to give because he has so much experience with this stuff.
He really does. Matt even recalled a specific moment during the show when he was putting a lot of pressure on himself and asked Chris for some advice. He talked about the moment, saying that his advice was regarding the fact that, quote, "You can't please everybody and you can't speak for everybody." Him saying that was what I needed to hear in that moment because I was putting a lot of pressure on myself. So, as we saw first episode and we'll probably continue to see, Matt was pretty nervous. He put a lot of weight on his shoulders, I'm sure, being in this role where he was just kind of in uncharted territory. America was putting a lot of pressure on him, and then that made him put more pressure on himself. So what do you think about him just being in this role and navigating this new space, and then, going to Chris for some advice like this, and then being able to run with that and take it and hopefully be able to create an amazing season because of it?
I mean, being the Bachelor is such an odd position to be in. Not many get the opportunity to do so, and no one really knows how to do that, especially him because he's never been on the show as a contestant either. So just having that in mind, never being on the show, and then also being the first Black Bachelor and many other things, he has so much pressure on him. And I know he has these expectations and other people have expectations for him. And at the end of the day, you have to do what's right for yourself. And Chris basically gave him that advice, and that's something he needed to hear. And even after advice, it's hard to take it just because all the eyes are on you. Everyone's going to be critiquing his every move, regardless if they like what he's doing or not. So it's such a tough position to be in, but just to have a mentor like Chris, I bet helps so much.
It sure does. I like that he defined it as tough love because you can totally just tell that he's probably like, "Chris, it's easy for you to say, be true to yourself and you'll find, your true love." And it's like, that seems very cliche and cheesy, even though it's true, like once you get down to the core of it. But because Chris has been on so many of these seasons and seen heartbreak and seen successful things, he sort of knows probably if you're the Bachelor or Bachelorette, like what tendencies or what things people have gone through that have created a successful outcome or maybe a non-successful outcome. So he really is the all-knowing being in this Bachelor universe case. So it makes sense that Matt was probably a little bit hesitant at first to take that advice, like you were saying. But now that he's looking back and sort of doing these interviews after the fact, after hopefully he's found love and gotten engaged, that he can sort of look back at that advice and see that it was actually really good, and that whether he took it in the moment or not, he can look back and see that it was beneficial. Matt also responded to the question about whether he ever felt fully comfortable on the show, and he said no. I thought that was hilarious. He said, quote, "Every time you think that, Chris pops up with a hole and it's like, oh, by the way," and you're just like, what? It's more like a plot twist. Well, this is going well. Let's do this. And I'm just like, dang, I thought it was going well. So we know for sure that in past seasons, Chris does pop up everywhere and throw in plot twists here and there, from the producers or just trying to throw the show on its head or throw a wrench in there. So that can't be any helpful for The Bachelor or the leads who are just trying to navigate this. That could include adding more women or throwing a 2-on-1 date in there or whatever they end up doing in the show to change things up a bit. And of course, it's great for us viewers because more action, more drama is great. But in the moment, these people are probably just panicking on the inside. So, how do you think overall Matt is going to handle these situations where Chris and the producers throw a wrench in things? We haven't seen it yet, but in future episodes, we're going to see this all go down and see how Matt's able to handle it.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of confusion during his season just because he didn't know what a lot of these things were because he never seen the show before. So Chris was even explaining this in an interview. They had to explain to him like what a 2-on-1 was or just a group date because other contestants are expected to already know that and be familiar with it, whereas he was never on the show. So he was kind of like, wait, what? So of course he's feeling 10 times more uncomfortable and confused, but I think he figured it out, after watching his interviews lately, like he seems like he's in a good place. And even already after the first episode, like we could tell he was super nervous, but like he's got this.
Definitely. I think the moment where he's like sitting on the curb with Chris Harrison and he's crying and Chris is trying to console him, like that's the one moment that I'm looking forward to the most this season because it seems like a sad moment. So I don't want to seem like I'm, excited for him to be upset, but it seems like that is going to be the culmination of all these things and all this pressure weighing on him. And so, that's a perfect example of how Chris was there for him and hopefully, could guide him a little bit on the next steps wherever in the season that ends up. Maybe it's close to the end where he's really getting down to it. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing, where Chris consoles him a little bit. And to your point about the fact that he's never done this before, he literally doesn't even know the layout of the show. I think one of the girls on the first night, Rachel, who we know is a big front runner right now, she was saying, a reason that she was attracted to him and wanted to be on the show is because he didn't have this experience before. So it was like they were both going through it for the first time. So even though it's a little bit tougher on Matt right now, they can at least, bond over that, him and the girls at this point. Another question for you, Avery. Coming directly off of Claire and Tayshia's season, which was unlike any season we've seen before, with all kinds of crazy twists and turns. And it seems like it happened kind of naturally. Claire found her man and they had to switch things up last minute. But we were so exciting watching that show, those seasons, because all that stuff had never happened before. It was really uncharted waters, totally different than past seasons that have been so popular. So does this really put pressure then on the future Bachelor and Bachelorettes to not have a perfect season, to maybe have crazy things that go on that makes the fans love them? Or, just are we going to think his season's boring if nothing crazy happens? And then does that add more pressure? What do you think?
Definitely think there was a lot of pressure. I think even just going into Matt James's season, the bar was set so high. And I think he knows that because he's the first of a lot of things. So all eyes are on him. Like I said, people are going to have so many expectations and he probably has so many for himself, just knowing he's coming out of Tayshia's season and how great that was and how crazy it was, like you said. But I have no doubt that this season will also be a little crazy too. Like I'm already getting those vibes. So I don't know. I'm excited for it.
I am too. It seems like we're so many seasons in already because we've already had so much to talk about with Matt James and it's only going to get juicier. But guys, that's all we have for you in Matt James news today. So of course we want to know what you think. So let us know down in the comments. What do you think of Matt James and Chris Harrison's relationship? What do you think of him overall being the dad and the mentor of this franchise? Let us know. And before you go, make sure you subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. I'm Gabby Gonta, and I was joined by Avery Grooms today. You can follow us on our social handles on the screen right now. Come say hi. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.